All right, if you're getting ready for your real estate license exam, you have come to the right place. Today, we're going to break down one of the most important topics you'll ever face, agency. Trust me, getting a solid handle on these key terms isn't just about passing the test. It's the foundation for your entire career. So, let me ask you something right off the bat. What is that legal glue that holds the whole agent-client relationship together? Well, the answer is agency, and that's exactly what we're going to unpack in this explainer.
We're going to start with the basics, what agency even is. Then we'll walk through the life of that relationship from start to finish. We'll also get into that agent's code of honor, look at the different hats you'll wear, and then wrap it all up with the super important rules of disclosure. Okay, let's get into it.
All right, so to really get a grip on agency, we've got to know who the players are. In any real estate deal, there are two main roles you absolutely have to know like the back of your hand. First up, we've got the principal. Now, think of the principal as the star of the show. This is your client. It could be the seller, the buyer, a landlord, a tenant. They're the one who hired you. Every single one of your legal and ethical duties flows directly to this person. And that's what brings us to the idea of agency itself. See, it's not just a business deal. It's a formal legal relationship. It's all built on trust and good faith. And it gives you the power to act on your principal's behalf. This right here, this is that legal glue we were talking about. So how does this whole thing even get started? And maybe just as importantly, how does it end? Let's take a look at the entire life cycle of the agency relationship, from that first meeting to the final goodbye. Okay, so an agency relationship can kick off in one of two ways. Now the first one, an express agreement, that's your best case scenario. It's clear, it's out in the open, usually in writing, like a listing agreement. But you have to be really, really careful of an implied agreement. This is where your actions, not your words, make someone think you're their agent, even if you never signed anything. It's a huge legal trap and, yep, a classic exam topic. And of course, all good things must come to an end. Ideally, the relationship is over because the job is done. You sold the house. But things can also end for other reasons. Maybe the contract just runs out of time, or everyone agrees to just call it a day. Sometimes it's more serious, like a breach of contract, or even something wild like the house burning down. You can bet you'll see some scenario questions on your exam about these. Okay, let's get to the absolute heart of agency law. Once you agree to represent a client, you owe them a very specific set of responsibilities. We call these fiduciary duties. This is your code of honor. You're going to want to listen up here. I mean, really listen. These 6 duties, they are practically guaranteed to be on your exam. They define what it means to be a fiduciary, and you just have to know them. A really popular way to remember them is the acronym OLDCAR. That's obedience, loyalty, disclosure, confidentiality, accounting, and reasonable care. Let's hit each one. Everything, and I mean everything, kicks off with loyalty. This is the bedrock of the whole relationship. It means your client's interests come first. Before the other party, before your broker, and yes, even before your own paycheck. You are 100% on their team. Period. Next, we have obedience. You have to follow your client's instructions, but, and here's the key that gets people on the exam, they have to be lawful instructions. You must obey their legal requests, but you can never follow an order to do something illegal or unethical. Big difference. Then there is disclosure. This one's simple. No secrets. If you learn something important about the deal that could affect your client's decision, you have to tell them. Full transparency all the time. That's the rule. Confidentiality is a huge one, and here's the part you can't forget. It is lifelong. It lasts forever. Years after the deal is done, you can't ever spill your client's private info, like what their bottom line price was or their financial situation. Accounting is all about handling money and property like it's gold. You have to guard any funds, paperwork, or anything else your client gives you. That means never, ever mixing their money with yours. That has a name. It's called commingling. And you've got to keep perfect records of everything. And finally, we have skill, care, and diligence. This one basically just boils down to you have to be good at your job. You're expected to know the market, to understand the contracts, and to work hard for your client. No slacking. Okay, we've got our duties down. Now let's talk about the different kinds of agency you'll encounter. Think of it like wearing different hats depending on the situation. The two big ones you'll see all the time are single agency and dual agency. In single agency, it's super simple. You represent one side, buyer or seller, and all those fiduciary duties we just talked about go to them. But dual agency, Now, this is where things get tricky. You're representing both sides in the same deal. And yeah, that's a huge potential conflict of interest. So it's only legal if you get informed, written permission from everybody involved. You're also going to run into a few other roles. Most residential agents are what we call special agents, meaning you're hired for one specific job, like selling one house. Some places use designated agency to avoid dual agency conflicts. The broker just designates one agent for the buyer and another for the seller, even in the same office. Sub-agency is less common now, but it's where another agent actually works for the seller's agent. And lastly, you might just be a facilitator where you don't represent anyone. You're just a neutral party helping the paperwork flow. Okay, let's nail down the final critical piece of this whole puzzle: disclosure. Because it's not enough for you to know who you work for. Everyone needs to know, loud and clear. The whole point of disclosure is pretty simple, and it breaks down into these 4 steps. First, you declare who you work for. Then you explain what that means. You offer the person a choice in how they want to be represented. And then you get it all in writing. If you follow these steps, you'll avoid that whole accidental implied agency mess we talked about earlier. And when it comes to disclosure, timing is everything. Seriously, the exam loves to ask about this. For a seller, it's easy. You disclose when they sign the listing agreement. For a buyer or anyone you don't represent, you need to remember this phrase: first substantive contact. That's the moment you stop talking about the weather and start talking about their budget or motivation. And for dual agency, you absolutely must get that written consent before you lift a finger for both of them. And this right here is a huge rule to burn into your brain about dual agency. Because you're working for both sides, you have to keep your mouth shut about certain things. You can't tell the buyer that the seller is desperate and will accept a lowball offer. And you can't turn around and tell the seller that the buyer can actually afford way more. That would be a massive violation of your duties. And there you have it, a whirlwind tour of real estate agency. We've hit all the key terms, the duties, the rules, everything you need for your exam. So, as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a question to chew on as you start your career. Now that you know the rules, which one of these agency roles do you think is the toughest one to handle ethically out in the real world? Something to think about. Thanks for watching.